Hi, we're back up in Advanced Repair Technology Studio. We have some cured samples of epoxy here so we can demonstrate some working tooling techniques that may not be commonly understood. We'd like to show you how you can hand plane and route and sand and drill the cured epoxy in the same way that you're used to working with the wood. So let's try some hand planing and we'll show you how easy it can be. Okay, so there we have an example of how easy it can be to work with the cured epoxy, and also demonstrates how it will not compromise the bond between the cured Flex-Tec and the wood. If you look at the shavings, we have a great example of how the Flex-Tec also moves with the wood. Okay, now that we can see how easy it can be to hand plane cured epoxy, let's go into routing an edge profile where maybe there's too much epoxy that you would want to work by hand. And there you can see that the finished profile is just as smooth as it normally is in wood. There's no chips, there's no splits, no cracks, and the bond is still intact. Okay, now let's go into a fill and re-drill scenario where maybe you had to move a lock set or hinges repositioned on the door. Red Point Builders, we've had to do this numerous times, and the Flex-Tec is great for this application to show you that we can drill smoothly into the cured epoxy, and it will accept the threads of the screw without chipping, cracking, and really lets the screw right in there. So there you can see the cured epoxy holds the screw very well. There's no cracking, chipping, or splitting. And there you have just a few examples how you can tool and shape the cured epoxy just as you normally can with wood. And I'm sure you'll find, as we have, that with the Flex-Tec system, the possibilities are endless. So now I'd like to take one final opportunity to show you some more advanced or creative techniques for recreating complex shapes. Here we have the corner support that you saw earlier, where we demonstrated a basic filling technique of cracks and removing some rotten wood. In this particular spot, we'd like to show you how thinking outside of the box and being more creative will help you to recreate these complex curves and be able to accomplish something that at first glance may seem like an impossible task. Here we're going to try to finish this repair on this curve here. As you can see, the detail on this leaves a fairly small gap. If we were going to try to tool this by hand, it would be more difficult and would probably require several applications. So we're going to use a plexi-glass form that will hopefully be able to allow us one final application. Here I've cut a strip of this thin plexiglass. I'm going to place it into the curve. Then I can mark and cut a length that will allow me to place the piece completely inside the curve. Okay, the length is good on our plexiglass strip, so before I install it and get ready for the epoxy application, I'm going to quickly spray this plexiglass with a vegetable spray. We've pre-mixed our Flex-Tec, and now we'll start applying. When you're applying Flex-Tec over an already cured area, you do not need to use the Primatrate primer. Flex-Tec sticks very well to itself. There you go. We'll let that cure overnight, and in the morning we'll remove the plexiglass. We should have a smooth, finished repair. Now let's move on to a smaller detail here on the corner support. Here we've chosen to use some French curves that we got at the local craft store to try to repair this small, tighter curve in this area of the repair. Alright, now that we've finished these other two repairs, given them a chance to dry, we're going to address this curve on the front and show you a different technique where we'll cut out a putty knife to duplicate a curve, so we can do this in one shot rather than build it up by hand in multiple steps. First thing we'll do is take a putty knife, place it in the space that we want to fill, and we'll roughly mark out the height and the width of this board here. That'll give us a reference to create the shape. Now, in this particular application, I don't want the knife to be sitting here because I want to be able to create this side of the putty as well. So I'm going to cut out an L shape that allows this edge to drop down lower, and we should be able to do it in one pass. We have a simple L shape. We'll cut that out with a pair of snips. Now we've got our profile cut in our putty knife. I'm going to go ahead and fill the area. I'm going to use another knife to build this up to actually more than I want, so at the end I can bring this putty knife in with the profile and hopefully smooth it off in one pass, and we should be good to go. So let's get that filled in. Now that we've overfilled the epoxy in the area we want to repair, we're ready to set our profile knife in place and finish this in one pass. There you go. You can see by using this technique we were able to duplicate the undamaged area by creating our own profile on a simple knife that we were able to get at a local hardware store. Okay, now that our repairs that we made yesterday had a chance to dry overnight, we're ready to remove the plexiglass and see the results of the curve that we made. I'm going to start by, I'll use a chisel here to tap on it, release it slowly, and it should pull right out. There you go. You can see by using this simple technique we were able to create a really nice curve, and we also saved ourselves hours of sculpting and sanding by hand that we would normally have to do without a piece of plexiglass like this. You'll find that there are many creative applications you can use this technique for. Another good example is perhaps creating an outside corner with two pieces of plexiglass. This could be used in an application such as repairing a windowsill, the corner of a door, perhaps exterior trim on your house, the corner board or where the skirts meet. By using two pieces you can create a right angle, obviously any other shapes that you like. And I'll give you a quick example here of filling in a little bit of epoxy and then using some vegetable spray as a release agent on the plexiglass. We'll be able to hold the plexi in place just by the surface tension and not have to use any clamps. And we'll just, once we fill in the spot that we want to repair, we'll use this plexi to create a nice flat surface, be nice and smooth. We can use a second one to create the outside corner. As you can see, because the Flex-Tec doesn't slump or sag, There's no need to clamp the plexi in place. It'll be held there sheerly by the surface tension of the Flex-Tec. Let that dry overnight. The release agent will allow the plexi to pop right off, and I'm sure you'll be as happy with the results of your project as we have been with ours.